nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Victims of chance. Statistics of fate.
Baghdad lit up like a Christmas tree.
During the chaos, the embassy helped evacuate
Or
some 25
is there a way to avoid this nightmare? It's not always a friendly world out there. And as a government employee traveling overseas, you may unwillingly find yourself in a dangerous situation. While overseas duty can present some real hazards, there are some simple steps that you can take to make yourself less vulnerable. Call it defensive travel, an awareness of your surroundings, and knowing what to do in times of an emergency. You may think that you're safe, that there's no way this could happen to you, but it does happen to someone. Americans are often ideal targets to promote a cause or make a political point. And American government personnel are an even greater catch. There are 4 basic threats that could jeopardize your safety or the safety of others: foreign intelligence, war and civil disturbance, terrorism, and most common, crime. Many people would like to believe that foreign intelligence threats are a thing of the past, something that dissolved away with the end of the Cold War. But in fact, there is even a greater threat of foreign intelligence now, more than ever. With modern technology becoming more available around the world, government travelers are vulnerable to many forms of surveillance tactics and methods. Certain regions conduct highly professional surveillance practices, often consisting of a combination of foot and vehicle surveillance, traffic cameras, and stationary surveillance acting as observation posts. A novice traveler is unlikely to detect a professional surveillance effort. But if you suspect that you are being observed, do not acknowledge, approach, confront, photograph, or harass the surveillance. They most certainly have a network of support, perhaps even law enforcement connections. Many hotel rooms in the former East Bloc, Russia and China, reportedly have video and audio surveillance, undetectable to the common traveler. Always assume that you're under surveillance in your room, and don't attempt to search for monitoring devices, or the host country will think that you have something to hide. There are several potential hotspots around the globe where war and civil disturbance can erupt unexpectedly. If you find yourself caught up in a civil disturbance, avoid large gatherings and demonstrations. Host governments won't know or care whether you were involved.
Cobra gunships fired at enemy positions. But this battle...
In the event of a war, armed insurrection, or conflict, take whatever actions are necessary to protect yourself. Try to telephone the U.S. Embassy or home and let them know your location and status. If you hear gunfire, take cover in a basement or other protected area. If nothing else, even taking cover in your room's bathtub will protect you from shrapnel and flying debris. Knowing how to predict and avoid terrorism is practically impossible. Sometimes it's just a matter of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. You need to be mentally prepared with a basic plan of action if an attack, hijacking, or kidnapping occurs. Be familiar with all emergency escape exits in your hotel or on your airplane, and know the phone numbers of local emergency or police institutions and your U.S. points of contact in the area. But the greatest threat in traveling abroad is crime. Increasingly, U.S. travelers, particularly government officials, are viewed as targets of opportunity. Most of the non-Western world view Americans as rich and therefore lucrative targets. Remember that in many developing nations, the average annual income is less than $100. You may be carrying 2 or 3 years of wages in your pocket. Crime can happen to anyone, at any place, at any time. Don't draw attention to yourself as an American or let your guard down. It only takes a few seconds, and you are the latest statistic. Defensive countermeasures fall into three categories: travel preparation, in-transit security, and in-country precautions. Take a look at what you can do before you depart on your next overseas assignment. Educate yourself on the potential threats in the region you're traveling to. Up-to-date information is available from a variety of classified and unclassified sources. A good unclassified source is the State Department's Bureau of Consular Affairs. When preparing to go overseas, always take the phone numbers of the U.S. Embassy or consulate, especially the 24-hour Marine Security Guard number. And be sure to get the home phone number of your overseas point of contact. Also, it's a good idea to leave copies of your itinerary at your office and home in case of an emergency. Don't carry a lot of unnecessary credit cards or cash with you, and try to cut off any affiliation with DOD, DIA, and USG. You want to only take no more than 2 credit cards, a driver's license, and a little money in your wallet. The thinner the wallet, the harder it is to spot and to steal. And if you simply place a thick rubber band around your wallet, it makes it harder for a would-be pickpocket to lift when carried inside a coat or trouser pocket. It's a good idea to make copies of your vital papers and the contents of your wallet. Leave a copy at home, at the office, and an extra copy to put in your checked baggage. If you lose the originals, you'll have several places to retrieve the lost information. This is especially important with your passport, which deserves extra precautions. Always keep it with you and memorize the passport number and place of issue. This way, you won't have to remove it when filling out customs forms, and you won't draw attention to yourself. Once you leave for your trip and become in transit, there are some key defensive strategies to keep in mind. Avoid curbside check-in. A common scam in some countries is for so-called baggage handlers to make off with your luggage. And publicly accessible areas at the airport are an ideal location for a terrorist to plant a bomb. Stay to yourself as much as possible at the airport. Go through security checkpoints as soon as possible. Then, stay in secure areas until your flight leaves, always keeping your baggage close at hand. And do not discuss business. You do not want to give away the fact that you are a government employee or that you are traveling on official business. Once you arrive, talk to someone who's been in country for a while. Learn the local customs and laws and find ways to blend in as much as possible. While DIA travelers may be vulnerable to multiple threats, foreign intelligence, war, civil disturbance, and terrorism, the most common threat is crime. Here are some simple defensive measures to think about. Don't leave your valuables in the hotel room. Instead, use a safe deposit box provided by the hotel. When you're in your room, keep the doors locked at all times. It's also a good idea to bring a door alarm system to hang on the door before you go to sleep, or simply leave a chair behind the door. When going out at night, leave your room lights on and put out the Do Not Disturb sign to give the impression that someone is in the room. Carrying a second wallet with just a few dollars and a small amount of local currency is also a good idea. If confronted by a criminal, the throwaway wallet can satisfy his intent and get you out of a dangerous situation. Worldwide, phony policemen are major players in scams. In certain regions, the actual police often use their official position for personal profit. If you find yourself in this situation, ask to be taken to the U.S. Embassy or call your local U.S. points of contact for their assistance. Taxis are another place to exercise caution. Besides overcharging, cab drivers in some countries use violence to commit outright robbery. Purse snatchers can be a problem too. Whether on foot, in a vehicle, or a motorcycle, stay alert. And remember your defensive tips. Keep your purse or case on the inside, next to the person you're traveling with. The possibility of you becoming involved in a hostile intelligence operation, a war, or terrorism is remote. But the greatest threat when you travel overseas is from low-level crime. Our intent here is to get you to think about the possibility that it does happen, and it could happen to you. Understanding this possibility is the best defense against being taken by surprise. Be alert. Be able to react. Maintain a low profile. Be a little unpredictable in your movements. And follow the defensive travel checklist to ensure your safe trip abroad. A few extra precautions will make all the difference.